Well, welcome everyone. Let me just kind of lay out the objectives of this webinar. First, I'd like to provide a solid foundation for the Agile lessons learned that I'll be describing. It's very important for attendees of this webinar to have a basic understanding of Agile development, and in particular, one very popular Agile approach called Scrum. And many of you may have some Agile and Scrum experience, and others are new to Agile, so I want to set the stage properly by giving you a good foundation. So I'm first going to provide an overview of Agile development and then get into the details of Scrum, the core principles of the approach, the roles and responsibilities in Scrum, and how it differs from traditional software development methods that you may be familiar with. I'll then describe a number of lessons that I've learned as an Agile development practitioner over the past 5 years or so on a number of small and large software development projects. And my hope is that some of these lessons will be beneficial to you if you're just starting out with Agile in your organization, or even if you've already adopted Agile development but may not be seeing any positive results from it yet. And then we should have about 15 minutes or so for Q&A. So I'm a big fan of Dilbert cartoons, and nothing satirizes technology in the workplace as well as Dilbert cartoons. They're always funny, and there's always a grain of reality in them that hits home with most readers, especially if those readers have ever been part of a failed IT process change, such as the introduction of a new SDLC. So in this strip, Agile's being sold by the boss as something that requires no planning, documentation, just start coding. And there are actually IT professionals that believe this about Agile, but fortunately, that perception is being chiseled away by the delivery of some very successful large-scale Agile projects. As far as the overview goes, I'm going to start by talking about the difference between plan-based and value-based development methods. Then I will quickly go over the Agile Manifesto, the principles and benefits of Agile, and some popular Agile methods, including Scrum. So where were we before Agile? Well, most of us were using traditional or plan-based methods. Plan-based methods focus on standardized, well-defined processes that are used to make the activities predictable and repeatable. And this basic assumption comes from manufacturing, which is based on repetition with clear defined outputs. So you start with a clear and accurate specification. And if you look at the steps over on the right side, you're familiar with this. This is the waterfall approach to software development. You start with the specification, and the hope is that this will prevent rework by getting things right up front. So if you spend the time on requirements, get it all nailed down, signed off, approved up front, then you're going to be able to develop the application and eliminate any rework. It requires perfecting a design specification before building. So at this point, there better not be any changes to the requirements, because you're setting the design in stone, and then you're going to code from that design. And it assumes that then at the end you'll have a quick testing cycle with little rework needed. The problem with this approach is that in reality, software development is not achieved through predictable and repeatable activities. What we're usually faced with are requirements that change, new technology that's challenging to learn and master, a schedule that's typically created without any consideration for the actual scope or the complexity of the project. Reality says that between 25% and 35% of the requirements are going to change throughout the life of a large project. And this was reported by Capers-Jones in a study he did. With plan-based approaches, teams become very rigid and resistant to change because of pre-existing cost and schedule constraints. Well, that's problematic because there's often a good reason why changes are introduced during a project. Something could be identified by the business as a really good idea, or the team may have learned something through the course of the project that changes their understanding of the original requirements. Well, those changes are often rejected in order to constrain costs and protect the delivery dates that the team has committed to. Alternatively, there are a set of methodologies which are known as value-based methods. Value-based methods accept the fact that software development involves unpredictable activities. They don't try to plan the entire project at the start. Instead, they look to deliver the most highly valued features given other project constraints such as cost and schedule. So value-based methods know that requirements are going to change and that it's ineffective to attempt to lock down all the requirements before starting to design and build the application. In most projects, there's going to be some requirements that are pretty well understood at the beginning and some that are going to require some time and learning to understand better. So what you want to do is do the well understood requirements first and defer the less understood requirements until later in the project. The team will learn along the way and can fully elaborate those deferred requirements at the right time. Value-based methods seek to establish high-value-based business objectives at the start of the project and to plan the project based on those objectives. So lesser value objectives are not considered in the initial planning, but during the project, the stakeholders review the objectives regularly to see if they're still considered highly valued, and they're changed if needed. Something may have come along midway through the project that's considered high value and needs to be accommodated in the project plan. In a plan-based method, that would be very hard to accommodate because you've done your requirements, you've done your design, and something that's introduced new in the middle of the project could really derail the project. But we'll see that Agile methods, which are in the category of value-based methods, can accommodate changing requirements and business objectives. This screen is the Agile Manifesto, and this is a document that a group of proponents and founders of new software development approaches collaborated on back in 2001. And this group includes some software development leaders such as Martin Fowler, Ken Schwaber, Jeff Sutherland, Jim Highsmith. And for years, they had been frustrated by the industry's lack of success with traditional heavyweight methods. And the purpose of their meeting back in 2001 was to discuss more lightweight approaches to software development. And so they came up with this document called the Agile Manifesto, and this is just part of it. Let me read this to you. I go back and read this before I start every new Agile process or Agile project because it's so important to understand these values when doing an Agile project. So it states, we are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. And through this work, we have come to value individuals and interactions over process and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan. And that is, while there is value in the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. So there are important things that are mentioned here, and things on the right side. We do need tools to do our job. We do need process, and we do need some level of documentation. It's just that we don't value them as highly as we value the things on the left side. So the people, the communications, building working software, the collaboration with the customer, adapting to change. Michelle Sliger, who does an ITMPI webinar, tells a story about, when the project ends and the team's toasting with champagne. What is it that they're going to be toasting? Is it going to be the perfectly executed contract, a project plan that was created and followed to the letter, the requirement spec that's 200 pages and they spent 4 months haggling over, or is it going to be the tested production-ready software that they built as a team? There's also 12 Agile principles that was authored by this group. They're less well-known. They don't fit nicely on a slide, but they focus on things like customer service, embracing changing requirements, the daily collaboration between